Hi everyone, welcome to Jawaras. In the previous video, we looked at the responsibilities of confidential auth to client. And in this video, we are going to make one. In this video, first we will create a new application on GitHub, since we will use that as Auth Provider or Authorization Server. Next, we will create a new Spring Boot project to create a web application. And after that, we will enable all the features of auth to client in the project. You don't need to watch the full video. I will create timestamps or chapter for this video. So if you are interested in a specific part of the video, you can go to that timestamp. We will use GitHub as the authorization server or Auth Provider. Obviously, which service to use for Auth Provider totally depends on your application and what you want to achieve. Let's say you want to access data from Gmail and want to perform some Gmail actions on the user's behalf. In that case, you would choose Google as Auth Provider. If you want to access the Facebook account of the user, you would choose Facebook as Auth Provider. For our project, we just want to access users' basic information from their GitHub account. So we will use GitHub as Auth Provider. Now let's see how to create a GitHub application. For that, go to GitHub's developer page at github.com/settings/apps. Using GitHub as an auth provider, you can create two types of apps. First is auth apps and the second is GitHub apps. If you read GitHub's documentation, it is recommended to create a GitHub app rather than an auth app. Click on the new GitHub app to create a new GitHub app. It will ask for password. So provide your password and click on confirm. While creating an auth to client application, you need to provide some information. Some of this information is common for all the auth providers, like application's name, logo, redirect URI, etc. But some of this information is specific to the auth provider. You should always refer to the server's documentation in order to figure out what information required and why. You can go to this URL for detailed steps in order to create a GitHub app. First of all, we need to provide the name of the application which we are building, the description of the app, and the homepage URL of the application. We need to add one or more redirect URLs or callback URLs as well, where the user will be redirected back after the user successfully logs in and approves the application. If you don't want the access token to expire, you can deselect expire user authorization tokens field, but it is strongly recommended to keep it selected. If it is selected, you will get a refresh token with the access token, and whenever the access token expires, you can get another one using the refresh token from the authorization server or from the GitHub in this case. Now, enable request user authorization during installation to prompt the user to authorize the app when they install it. If you want to use device flow to get access token, you can select enable device flow. We are not going to do that. We are not going to perform any post installation steps, so we can skip this section as well. And we also don't want to use any webhooks, so we won't provide anything here. Now let's come to the permissions section, where we define all the permissions or scopes which the app needs. We won't use any special actions. We will just need the basic information of the user's account, which we will get by default. In order to know about the different permissions or scope which you can specify or use, you can refer to GitHub's documentation. After that, we don't want to subscribe to any events, so let's not do anything here. We want to allow everyone to use our application using their GitHub account. So we need to select any account here. And after that, we can click on create GitHub app and one GitHub app will be created. But I won't do that since I already created an app. So I will use that one instead. I will click on the cancel button here. This is the app which we will use. I will click on edit button to view the details of the app. So we see this page after creating the app as well. We can see client ID and client secret here. Initially, we don't see any client secrets. If you want a client secret for an app, which you do in case of confidential auth to client applications, you can click on generate a new client secret and a new client secret will get generated. So you can see this is the secret, but you need to copy it and store it at somewhere else, because the next time you visit this page, you want to be able to see this client secret. So I have already copied this client secret. So I will delete the secret which I just generated. So I will click on delete here, delete. Below that, we can see all the details of the app which we have specified, and we can modify that if we want. We also get the option to upload the logo for the app and few more things which are not relevant for the OAuth flow. Now that we have created a GitHub application, we need to actually build the application. We will create a web application using Spring, and we will use Spring Boot to make our life easier. Go to Spring Initializer website at start.spring.io to create a new Spring Boot application. Let's select Gradle as build tool, Java as language, and 3.2.2 for the Spring Boot version. For group, I will specify dev.javarus.auth2. For artifact, I will select confidential client. Let's specify jar for the packaging and 17 for the Java version. We need to add few dependencies to create a web app. First, we need a Spring Web dependency to build web applications using Spring MVC. We need a template engine as well. We will use Thymeleaf for that. So that's all we need. One thing to keep in mind is that ideally you should use some kind of library which is dedicated to build auth to client applications. For Spring applications, we can use auth to client for that. But we will create an auth to client from scratch, so we won't include that in the project. So I will remove it from here. Now click on generate button. This will create and download a zip file which contains everything we need to get started. Let's verify if the zip is downloaded using ls command. So we can see the file called confidential client.zip. So this is the zip file we just got downloaded. Let's unzip it using unzip command. So the file has been unzipped. Let's delete the original zip file using rm and go to confidential client directory. Now at this step, you should open this directory in your preferred ID. I will use IntelliJ ID as the ID, but you can use whatever ID you would like. So I will open this directory inside an ID. It will take some time to sync and build the project. After that, we are ready to code. Let's go to resources directory. Inside templates directory, create an HTML file called index, and title will be auth2 client demo. Now since we have added Thymeleaf as template engine, we can use Thymeleaf tags in HTML, but I want the auto completion, so I will include that in the HTML tag. XML namespace th equal to http www.thymeleaf.org. Now it will give us auto completion whenever we will try to use Thymeleaf tags. So for example, if I say th, then you can see we are getting auto completion. For now, let's just print hello and go to Java, and alongside this main Java class, I will create a new Java class which will be auth2 client controller, and this will be a controller. So here let's create a method called public string index which will handle get request. So it will handle get request to the default path which will be an empty path, and it will just return index. So Thymeleaf will resolve this path. So since we are returning index, so Thymeleaf will try to look for any file called index.html inside templates directory, and it will find this index.html which we have created. So let's start the application. Go to browser and localhost 8080, and we can see hello here. Now let's first discuss what we want to achieve. So if the user is not logged in, we will display them a button or link which will say connect your GitHub account. But if they are logged in that case, we will display them their basic information from the GitHub. If the user is logged in, from the controller, we will pass an attribute called user to the view. That means index.html file. So if the value of user is not null, then we will display the user's information. Otherwise, we will display connect to GitHub button. So let's do that here. Here we can say th if, or let's say div th if user equals to null. So if the user is null, then we will display button a. So this link will send a GET request to login endpoint, and here we can say connect your GitHub account. But if this is not null, so div th if user is not null, in that case we will display the information of the user. So that we will do later. Okay, so for now let's just print the user here. So we can say here th text equal to user. I hope this works. Let's refresh it, and so we can see connect your GitHub account. But if we click this now, we get this error because we have not set any endpoint which request or which accepts a request to login endpoint. So let's do that now. So let's create get mapping to login here, and public string. For now let's say string. We will change this later. Login. Now if we just return anything, so let's just for now let's return index to see whether this is working or not. Reload the application. If we reload it, click this, and we are again redirected to the index page only because we are just returning index here. Now inside login method, we want to redirect the user to authorization server's login page. For that, we need to create an authorization URL, and that we can see here how to create the authorization URL. So this is the template of authorization URL. And since we are using GitHub as authorization server, so for that we can use this template. And if you want to learn more, you can go to GitHub's documentation. So this is the link, and here you can find everything, how to authorize the user and how to use the REST APIs provided by the GitHub. For now, we just need to construct this URL and we want to redirect the user there. Instead of hard coding this authorization endpoint of GitHub, I want to put it inside application.properties. So let's say later on, instead of GitHub, we want to use some other authorization server. In that case, we just need to change some configuration inside application.properties file. So let's go to application.properties file, auth server. So that means this property belongs to authorization server dot, let's say, auth endpoint equal to this URL. Now we need to use this URL, so we can create a value here, and the name of the property is this one. Let's say private string authorization endpoint. So we have the authorization endpoint here. Let's try to print it out whether it's working or not. Authorization endpoint. Let's refresh it. We are here. Let's go to index first. Now let's click on this button, and we can see the authorization endpoint being printed here. And after that, we need client ID. So I will do the same for client ID. I will put that inside here. So OAuth2 dot client dot ID will be This will be the client ID of our application. So which is this one. Copy it. The response type will be code. We need to create a state. So this would be a random string. The redirect URI which I have registered is this one. So I will just copy it and I will put it here. Auth2 dot client dot redirect URI equal to this one. Now let's create this URL. String authorization URL will be string dot format. So first of all, we will have this is the placeholder for authorization endpoint, and after that we will have client ID equal to %s. This is the placeholder for client ID, and response type will be code since we want to use authorization code grant flow, and then state is %s. So this is a placeholder for the state or the random string which we will generate shortly, and then we have redirect URI. Redirect URI equal to %s. This is a placeholder for redirect URI. Now let's put all these placeholder. So first is authorization endpoint, authorization endpoint. The second is client ID. So client ID is also defined in a properties file. So value, and let's say private string client ID, then value, then this will be redirect URI. Okay, let's put this first. So we have client ID, then state. So we will create a state shortly. 1 2 3 4 redirect URI. Okay, now let's create this state. So for that we will create a util file which will contain the method to create a random string. So let's do that. Go to, okay, create a new Java class. I will say utils. So I will just copy and paste the code of this utils class because I don't want to go into details how we are generating the random string. I have written the code to create a random string, and we need to give the length of that string. So let's go here and create that. Let's say string state equal to utils dot generate random string, and let's say we want to generate a random string of length 16, and we will include that here. But we want to put that this state in user's session as well, so that once the user gets redirected back to our redirect URI, we can validate whether the state is same or not. So for that we need to access the request. So here we can specify one parameter called HTTP servlet request, and here we can say request dot get session dot set attribute. The name of the attribute will be state, and the value will be the state which we just generated. And we want to redirect the user to this authorization URL. But before that, let's say if there are any access token pending in our session, so we want to remove those. So let's do that. Request dot get session dot remove attribute access token. So if there are any previous access tokens in the session, they will get removed. Now we have created the authorization URL. After that, let's create a redirect view to redirect the user. Redirect view equal to new redirect view, and redirect view dot set URL. The URL will be authorization URL, and we will just return this redirect view. Redirect view, and instead of string, this will return redirect view. Okay, so that's it. Now let's restart the application. Okay, we got some error here. Injection of auto dependencies failed. Okay, because we have not provided any keys here. So this will be the client ID, and this will be the redirect URI. And restart the application. Let's go here. So this is the index page. Let's click on connect your GitHub account. Okay. Now you can see we are redirected to the GitHub's authentication page. So here you can see we have client ID, response type code, state. So this is the state, and this is the redirect URI. And we can click on authorize demo auth to client server side, and this will redirect us to this domain, but the actual redirect URI is different. So let's click here. If we click here, we can see white label error page because the user, or in this case us, has been redirected to the redirect URI, but we are unable to handle it. So you can see the user is redirected to the authorization code callback, this endpoint, but we are not handling this endpoint. So we need to handle that. And in the URI itself, we are getting this code. So this is the authorization code and this state back. So this is the same state where we have redirected the user to. So let's handle this path as well. So let's create a get mapping, and the mapping will be to this path. Copy it and paste it here. It's a public string, and I will say redirect or auth callback. Now if you can see, we are getting two things here. One is code and one is state in the query parameters. So let's do that. I will say request param, and it will be map of string, and let's say give it name query. So we want to access the query parameters. Let's do that. String code will be query dot get code, and string state will be query dot get state, because these are the two things, code and state. These are the keys and these are the values. And we also need to access the request here. So http servlet request. First of all, we want to verify if the authorization code is null or not. So if code is null, then we don't want to do anything. So let's just display the error on user's page as well. So for that we need the access to model. So model here. Let's just say model dot add attribute. The name of the attribute will be error and it will be a string. So let's just give it something went wrong and try again, and return index. But let's say the code is not null. In that case, we want to check for the state. So let's say if state is null or the state does not match what is inside the session. So not state dot equals. So this state should be equal to the state present in the session. But if these are not equal, that means something is going wrong. Get the session from request, and from it, let's get the attribute with the name state. So if the state is null, which we are getting back, or if it's not null but it is not equal to the state which is already in this session, then also we will display some error. So model dot add attribute. So let's just say state does not match, try again, and let's return the index as well here. But let's say the code is not null and state is also matching. In this case, we need to get the access token from the authorization server or GitHub. In this case, we need an access token URL of this format, and this token endpoint you will get from the GitHub's documentation. So I already got it. So this is the endpoint. So let's just copy it and put it inside the properties file. So here auth2 dot auth server dot token endpoint. This is the token endpoint. Then we will need grant type, which will be code. This code, which will be authorization code. Redirect URI, client ID, and client secret. Now we need to put client secret as well in here. So auth2 dot client dot secret equal to. So I will put the client secret here, but before that I will pause the video and then I will do it so that you don't see what is the client secret for my app, and then I will resume the video. So I have gone ahead and put the client secret in application.properties file, but ideally you don't do that. You put the client secret in your environment variable or something like that. But here it's for demo, so I'm putting that in application.properties only. Now let's start getting the access token from authorization server. So for that we need to create an access token URL. Let's say string access token URL will be string dot format. So here percentage. So this is the placeholder for access token endpoint. Then grant type will be code, and code will be the actual authorization code, and it will be percentage. So this is the placeholder for authorization code, and redirect URI will be percentage. So this is the placeholder for redirect URI, and this should be the same where we send the user to. Sorry, this should be same which we sent while making the authorization request, and client ID and the client secret equal to percentage. This is placeholder for client secret. Okay, now let's provide all the values for these placeholders. So first is token endpoint. Let's create that here, value, and the key is auth2 dot auth server dot token endpoint private string token endpoint, and let's create for client secret as well, auth2 dot client dot secret private string client secret, and use them here. Token endpoint. The second parameter is code. The third is redirect URI. Then we have client ID. So we forgot to add client ID here. Client ID equal to %s. So client ID, then client secret. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 placeholders, and we have given value for all these placeholders here. So we created the access token URL. Now we need to send request to this URL and need to get back the token. So in order to send a REST request to some endpoint, we use REST template in Spring. So let's do that. So go here and let's create a bean for REST template. So we will have one REST template here. So let's uh, access that here. Private final REST template and add constructor parameter for it. So we have access to REST template here, and using that we can send the request. So let's send the request to access token URL template dot. We need to send post request because that is mentioned in GitHub's documentation. Post for, let's say, map or post for object, and the URL is access token URL. Since we don't have to send anything inside body of the request, so we will say null. And then here we need to specify what will be the type of response. So let's just say it will be of type map, and then we need to specify what are the URI variables. So we don't have any URI variables, so I will just say collections.empty map. Collections.empty map. So that's it. So we have sent one request here. Now the response we will get back will be of type map. So let's do that. Map, let's say string and token response equal to this one. So yeah, so this may be integer as well. So let's give it integer. So, oh, sorry, object. So it can be any type of value. So we know that we will get these strings, but we are only interested in access token. So let's get that. I will say string access token equal to string token response dot get access token. So we will get an access token here, and we can do whatever we want to do with this access token. What we want to do is we want to store this access token somewhere safe. So we can store it in session. So let's do that. Request dot get session dot set attribute access token, and its value will be access token. And now let's redirect the user to the index page. So return redirect this. So the user will be redirected to the index page. So let's go to index here, and now here let's check whether access token is present or not in the session. So for that we need http servlet request, and let's do that. So let's say if request dot get session dot get attribute access token is not null, that means access token is present. So let's do that. Model. So let's access model here. Model dot add attribute. Let's add this access token in error only, error, and request dot get session. Let's copy it. Since we are using it again and again, so I will just say this access token equal to this one, and object bj equal to this. If access token of bj equal to null, we'll just return index. Otherwise, string access token equal to string access token object, and this will be, so we don't need to check if it's null or not. We know it want to be null, and we can just say attitude error, and let's put access token here, and then go to return index. Now let's go to index.html, and if we have any error, so let's say div th, if we have any error in our model, then we want to print it th text equal to error, and let's give it some style, color dark red. Okay, let's restart the application and go here. State does not match, try again. Okay, that's good. So I will go to index first. Now it says connect your GitHub account. Click here. Now you can see it did not ask for us to log in again because we are already logged in. So it won't ask for that again. So initially also it did not ask for username and password because in this browser we are already logged into the GitHub. But it asks for us to authorize the application. But it did not ask again because we have already authorized it. But now we can see the access token printed here. So this is the access token. So we are able to get the access token. Now I want to use this access token, and that is the fourth responsibility of the auth client using access token. So to use the access token, we send any request we want to send to the resource server, and in that request we want to include the access token. So generally the access token is included either in the header or in the body of the application. So in the header the key is authorization and its value is bearer, then space, and then the actual access token. So let's do that. Now I want to send a request to GitHub's user endpoint to get the user's information. So let's go to GitHub's documentation. So this is GitHub's REST API documentation. And here I want to access the user's information. So go here. Now here you can see how to consume this API. So we need to send a request. So this will be a GET request, and we need to send one header called authorization. Its value will be bearer space the access token, and we send this request to this endpoint. So I will copy this endpoint and I will put it inside application.properties with the name user endpoint. So user endpoint is also quite common between Auth provider. So user endpoint is available only on those providers which provides you the information of the user. So on the user info endpoint, you can send the request and it will give you the response of the currently logged in user. So value, and it will be auth2 dot auth server dot user endpoint, and I will store it inside a private string user endpoint variable. So I will create one property with this key. So for that I will pause the video. I won't show you that because I already have the client secret in application.properties, so I don't want to disclose that. I went ahead and created a property with this key auth2.authserver.user endpoint, and its value is this one because this will give us the information of the logged in user. So let's use that. So now we need to use the access token. So we have the access token, and but we don't want to print the access token. So let's see how to use it. So I will put a comment here, use access token. Now let's say string user info URL will be string dot format, or we don't need to format, so it will be we already have that user info endpoint. We just want to include some, or we need to create some headers. So let's do that. HTTP headers equal to new HTTP headers. So these are the headers. So let's put headers dot set accept, and so this set accept method sets the same accept header. So it will be a list, and it will be a singleton list. So it will contain only one thing, which is application JSON media type dot application JSON. So we will accept the response of type application JSON, and let's put create a header with the value authorization, and its value will be collections dot singleton list, and let's say string dot format. So its value will be bearer, and then space, and then the access token. So I will use this placeholder, and it will be access token. So we have created the headers. Now let's actually send the request there. Template, we already have a template to send API request to some other servers. Dot exchange, and it will take the URL, which is user endpoint. Then it will take the method. So the method should be get http method.get, and then it will take an http entity. So let's say new http entity. So all this you can read in the documentation of REST template. So the first will be null. So that means we don't want to set anything inside body of the request, but we want to send some headers. So headers, and then we need to specify the type of response. So what will be the type of the response? So let's just say map.class here. Okay. So we have specified map.class here, and let's say dot get body, and let's store it inside a local variable, introduce local variable, and instead of body let's say user, because we will get the information of the user. So what will we get? You can find here. So we will get like login ID and many of the things. Let's say we are interested in login, and mm, we don't want email. Let's say we only care about name, and then this login. So login is like a username. So, and we want bio. So let's say these three things. So name, bio, and login. So let's do that. So it will be a map of string object. So this will be a map of string to object, and let's put it inside model. Model dot add attribute user, and the value will be user. And we can access this attribute inside our view. So here we know that user is not null, so we can access user here. So let's first say p th text will be okay. So first let's say we have a p, and inside p we have a span. So first span will have text called, let's say, login, and its value will be inside another span. Th text will be user dot get, and the key will be login. Okay. Let's copy it. And after login, we want the name and then we want the bio. So name and bio. Let rerun the application. Go here and let's refresh it. And we see connect your GitHub account here. Let's click on it. And we get white label error page, and this is the error. Illegal organization URI is not absolute. Yeah, so I got this error because I forgot to close these parentheses. So this string was considered as user endpoint. So let's rerun it, refresh. You can see connect your GitHub account, click here, and we can see some information here. So we are seeing all this information because we have th text equal to user here. So but we don't want that, and refresh the application, refresh this page here, connect your GitHub account, and you can see the login is Jawaras, the name is Jawaras, and I don't have anything in bio, so I don't see anything in bio as well. So we completed all these responsibilities. So first we created an authorization URL and we redirected the user to that URL. So you can find that here in the login. So we created the redirect URL. We redirected the user to that URL. And also we stored the state in session. And after that, whenever user redirected back to our application with the code and state, we verify code should not be null and state should match the state which is stored in the request. And after that, um, we need to get the access token. So we send a request to access token endpoint of the authorization server, and we are able to get the access token back. And we are redirecting the user again to the index. Now in the index, if we have access token stored in session, then what we are doing is we are sending a request to resource server. In this case, resource server is same as authorization server, which is GitHub, but the mechanism is same. So we are sending a request there, and while sending the request, we need to include the access token as well. And for that, we are creating one header with the key authorization and value bearer space access token. And we are sending the request and we are getting the request response and displaying that on the screen. So that's how the confidential OAuth2 clients works. Since here we can store the client secret securely, because that is not included in the source code, or even if it is included in the source code, it is not visible to the user cannot see the source code, so they cannot see the client secret. So for that reason, we are sending the access token here. Sorry, we are sending the client secret while getting the access token from the authorization server. But this is not true for single page applications, which we will see in the next video. So that's it for this video. I will meet you in the next one. Thank you for watching the video. Bye.